This week has been pretty tough on fans of pop culture between Snake Eyes, Masters of the Universe Revolution, and I Am Starfire. It's forced me to kind of ask the question, where do we go from here? It kind of seems like lines are being drawn in the sand between the creators and the fans, and there doesn't seem to be a winner on any side. So I thought I'd kind of examine these a little bit and try and eke out if I can tell what the cultural impact going forward that these are going to have. Now, Master of the Universe Revelation still has a part 2 to its season 1, so I'm going to go ahead and reserve judgment on that since I'm sure I'm going to be making another video on it. So let's just concentrate on I Am Not Starfire. But before we get too far into that, my comic book, Malevolent Rising, is still funding on Indiegogo.com. I really hope you guys go check that out and consider supporting the book. It'll really help me out. And on with the review. So there was a lot of hate going on with I Am Not Starfire before the series even came out, and I'm generally not a fan of passing judgment on a creative work before it's actually released, but I can definitely see where a lot of the hate came for this. And then when we finally got the book, we discovered it was basically a masterclass in how to tell a terrible story. They gave us an unlikable character with no redeeming quality whatsoever for a reader to relate to or to latch on to make us root for the character. And there was a lot of hate going to the criticism of this, trying to say, oh, well, you only don't like the character because she's of a certain body type, or she's got a blotchy skin, or weird orc teeth, or an upturned nose, or any of the other physical features that they gave her to make her kind of unappealing. But even if you don't want to focus on these, she's just an ugly human being. She's ugly at her core. So those criticisms of fans that have a problem with Mandy, Starfire's daughter, that's not really an accurate statement. I mean, they could have done anything in the world to try to make the readers identify with her rather than just make her a hateful, horrible brat with a superiority complex. They could have maybe fleshed out her relationship with her mother a little bit more, made it more complicated. How, yeah, she doesn't like that Starfire is gone and she feels like she comes in second, but at the same time, maybe she feels guilty because she realizes that Starfire actually has responsibility. She's a hero. She's going to have divided time, and that would be a conflicting emotion that Mandy would have had to come to terms with. Maybe Mandy's got a spotty relationship with her father. I don't know. But in the end, they just gave us an unlikable, difficult to relate to character, and so she's basically just ugly on all fronts. And it doesn't just stop with Mandy. The supporting characters were vapid, hollow shells of things with no personality, nothing to separate them, nothing to give them their own personality. She falls in love with Claire, her love interest, because the story basically says Claire likes you now. Lincoln, her best friend, follows her around because that's just what the story says that Lincoln does. We don't get any backstory. We don't get any background or any reason why any of these things should happen. All of this culminates in a battle with her mother that really just doesn't make any sense, in the sense that, well, it does if you're an angsty teenager, I suppose, but if you're trying to be the hero in the story, you need more than she's a teenager and she doesn't want her mom telling her what to do as a reason for conflict if we're going to be on that person's side, especially when you're writing Starfire as a pretty sympathetic, caring mother who does the best she can and wants the best for her daughter. So the major crux of their conflict is Starfire's not there for her, Starfire's out of touch, and Starfire wants her to go to college and get an education, whereas Andy wants to become an anarchist, based her words in the comic book. All of this culminates in just a ludicrous storyline of Blackfire and Mandy having a throwdown in the middle of a high school lacrosse game in front of the entire school and gaining all the approval of everybody and coming out on top in the end. Really just finalizing the trope that Mandy was just a Mary Sue who really went through no character growth in the storyline, and comes out of it or began the story with all the tools that she needed to overcome the obstacles that were presented to her. There's no growth. I mean, her powers spark up inside of her, but it's not like she has to learn to use them or reconcile her newfound abilities. She is able to master them immediately and defeat a Teen Titans villain that normally takes an entire team of superheroes to defeat single-handedly the first time she's out as a superhero. Then she's immediately accepted by the media, immediately accepted by the rest of the Teen Titans, immediately the most popular kid in school, and the most popular superhero in the world. The end. Well, 25 or 30 pages longer than the end. That's the other problem with this story, is it was several pages too long. And as a comic book creator myself, I know it's difficult to make a comic. So I try not to nitpick. I try to keep my nitpicks above board. I will talk about a story structure. I try to leave the art alone as much as I can. And honestly, revisiting the artwork in I Am Not Starfire, I found it a bit more effective than I thought it was the first time. Now, I know that's odd because these are very stylized drawings, and so you need to have the understanding that this is a stylized endeavor, but the use of color is good, the use of pacing is good, but there are certain things that the artist does wrong, and I think that's where the art comes across the most or the least effective. And one of which is just the character models are a bit inconsistent. Every now and then hands just kind of become blobs, and perspective takes a few panels off every now and again. And I don't mean to criticize the artist. I normally don't like to do that, but I've leveled a pretty harsh accusation of this comic book where I basically said that they've taken the craft of making a comic book and done it poorly. That's basically what this storyline is it's a comic book done poorly. And all of this anger and all of this vitriol is being halted at the people that are criticizing it by the people who are uplifting it just as heftily as it's being torn down. You're not looking at it critically. You're not looking at the elements that make this book up. And I'm not saying there's not good elements there. I said in my initial review that the realization she comes to while she's fighting Blackfire was an interesting morsel of character growth for Mandy. As I said, the artwork is effective in some ways. Sometimes the characters are very expressive. Other times the characters aren't expressive at all, and their faces kind of go into this little anime style grin, which doesn't fit the artist's style and doesn't fit the rest of the art of the book. So I don't know if they were doing that as a homage to the Teen Titans Go series or what that was supposed to be, but it just kind of comes across as odd and out of place. And really, what I'm left with is a book that has really struck a nerve with pretty much fans across the board, and it's had this gigantic impact, and it doesn't deserve it. That's the thing that gets me the most about this storyline, is it's being talked about, it's being reviewed. This is my second video on it. I almost never do a second video on anything, but I'm doing one today because it's so out there. And the biggest sin this has is not because it's so monumentally good or monumentally bad that it needs to be discussed, is it's so mediocrely subpar that the fact that we're giving it this much attention is elevating it above its station. It's giving it more than it deserves, which is probably the biggest crime of this book that it's committed, is that it has garnered all of this attention and all of this time on the internet, all of this time in people's mindsets, and all of this time being discussed, and it deserves none of it. There are better comic books out there, and there are worse comic books out there. This one just kind of struck a nerve. It came around at a right time. It gave us the right imagery, the right storyline, and I think the character, all of it created this perfect storm to create this volcanic eruption of simultaneous love and hate from the fandom. And I think it's just boiled down to, we're not even arguing the book anymore. We've drawn lines between who likes it and who doesn't. And the people who like it are criticizing the ones who don't like it, and vice versa. And we're just at each other's throats. And I don't think this book deserves that conflict. So that's going to be kind of my final word for now, at least on this. Hopefully my final word going forward on I Am Not Starfire. I am hoping that this book is going to kind of fade into the ether here in the near future, and we can move on into bigger and better things, or it's going to stay front and center until Marvel puts out the new Warriors and gives us something else to talk about. So that's my video. But before I go, I want to give a personal shout out and thanks to all of you guys who watch my videos. I passed 200 subscribers over the weekend, and I know that seems like a small number when you're looking at YouTube people with millions of subscribers out in the world, but to me, in my little operation here in my corner of the world, that's a really big deal. And I appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate the fact that you take time to listen to what I have to say and respond in the comment section and go back and forth with me. I love it. I love that you guys are enjoying my content, and I hope to do a lot more for you in the future. So I just wanted to give a big personal thank you very much to all of you guys who have helped the channel grow, especially in this part part of 2021. It's really gotten bigger than I thought, bigger faster than I thought it would, and I hope it keeps growing, and I hope I get more of you in there. We really build a community of people who are, like pop culture and like comics and like movies and video games, just like to talk about this kind of stuff, because there's not a lot of good, safe places to do that and to really share your opinion, and I want to create a place like that here. So I think you guys helped me did that, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart more than you guys will ever know. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And obviously, please like and share this video. If you're not a subscriber yet, please become a subscriber. I appreciate all you guys. And my